Sorry about that, guys. I thought I had paused it, but I stopped it. So you're going to have two videos to look at today. So kind of wanted to pick up where we kind of stopped. I had you guys making some corrections that you might need to make or add to your answers. And I kind of stopped because my husband come in needing some lunch. Just want to pick back up from there. One of the things that I thought about while I was on the porch reading for that hour earlier today is that, yesterday I talked about doing our skill practice all on that Thursday. Well, the more I think about it, I'm a little concerned about that. So what I am going to do is I'm at least going to introduce the end in mind for the skill practice. And that is, I will be able to understand the Latin roots vi, vis, and vi means to see. Sorry, I don't have like a good printout. And then it says, so the Latin root for seeing can be vis, vid, or vi. So, or vi. Anytime that you see that Latin root as part of a word, most of the time, or almost all the time, it usually means that it has a definition, or it is a word, I should say, that has something to do about seeing something. So think about the word view, V-I-E, as the root. And so if we want to view something, we are trying to see it. And so that's kind of what we're talking about. Let's think about the word vision. Vision, if we think about what would that word mean, it means being able to see with our eyes. So Latin root, vi, vis, and vi, almost always give us a word that is meaning to see something. And so that's kind of what we're talking about. So why don't you really quick write that in your journals, right? Latin root. And then write vis, V-I-S, dash. And then write the definition to see. And then you're going to write vid, V-I-D, with the dash. That means to see. And then you're going to write V, but it's a V-I-E dash, and that means to see. If you were in my skill group earlier in the year, we talked about this particular Latin root, and we have an anchor chart in the classroom that has these on those. But I started thinking about, if you want to go ahead and start working on those skill practice, this is the gut of a couple of those questions that are there. So anyway, I'm going to put our end in mind back up. With that being said, kind of want to very quickly go back over our vocabulary today. We have the right one up. We have protruding, which is sticking out. Faltered, which is stumbled. Invisible is not able to be seen. And right now, our end in minds are not able to be seen at all. Let's see if I can't turn this a little bit. There we go. Prolong is to lengthen or draw out. Yesterday, we talked about how Kirsty would ask those questions during her story of Little Red Riding Hood, trying to prolong or draw out that story. Tantalize is to tease. Evident is clear. Confronting is facing. And I would say that in yesterday's reading, Anne Marie is confronting one of her biggest fears at that moment of when she ran into, running into those soldiers. So confronting is facing something. And a solution is an answer. And we talked about on the day one of our stay-at-home work that a solution is an answer. And all of you guys have hopefully been working on Ms. Frederick's math assignments where you are having to work out math problems and submit solutions to her or put them on those worksheet packets. So solutions are answers. Now, according to my very rustic lesson plan, and it is a rustic, bare bones kind of thing here, we are going to move on to page 117. So when we stopped our reading yesterday, I kind of need to make myself a thing here. This is going to be day 4. Losing track of which days are what with these stay-at-home videos. It's a little daunting for me. I'm not going to lie to you. But we're doing it together, so we'll be all right. Yesterday when we stopped reading, I stopped where on page 117 where the soldiers have found the packet in the bottom of the lunch basket that belongs to Uncle Henrik. The packet does. And so now we are going to pick right back up there to see what happens since they have found it. So 117, we are at the second paragraph where it says the dogs whined. So let me give you a moment to get there. Here we go. Well, the dogs whined and struggled against the leashes, nosing forward to the basket. One of the other soldiers muttered something in German, and the soldier took out the packet. Why was this so carefully hidden? He snapped. Well, Anne-Marie wiped her eyes on the sleeve of her sweater. It wasn't hidden any more than the napkin was. I don't know what it is. That, she realized, was true. She had no idea what was in the packet. Well, the soldier tore the paper open, while below him on the ground, the dogs strained and snarled, pulling against their leashes. Their muscles were invisible beneath the sleek, short-haired flesh. He looked inside and then glared at Anne-Marie. Stop crying, you idiot girl, he said harshly. Your stupid mother has sent your uncle a handkerchief. In Germany, the women have better things to do. They don't stay at home hemming handkerchiefs for their men. He gestured with the folded white cloth and gave a short, caustic laugh. At least she didn't stitch flowers on it. He flung it to the ground, still half wrapped in the paper, beside the apple. The dogs lunged and sniffed at it eagerly, then subsided, disappointed again. Go on, the soldier said. He dropped the cheese and the napkin back into her basket. Go on to your uncle and tell him the German dogs enjoyed his bread. All of a sudden, all of the soldiers pushed past her. One of them laughed and they spoke to each other in their own language. And in a moment, they had disappeared down the path in the direction from which Anne-Marie had just come. How quickly she picked up the apple and the open packet with the white handkerchief inside. She put them into the basket and ran around the bend toward the harbor, where the morning sky was now bright with early sun, and some of the boat engines were starting their strident din. So I want you to think for just a moment. In the class, I would have you turn to your shoulder partner and talk about what is the evidence from the story that supports our theme of sticking together and helping others. So I want you to think about that for just a moment. Some of you are going, well, I don't know. And some of you all have come up with an answer. So the way that the author is showing us that she is helping others is that even though she is extremely scared and she doesn't stop with her mission of helping Uncle Henrik, she doesn't give up on that. You know, she continues to move forward even though those soldiers have scared the living bejesus out of her. She's risking a lot. She's risking her life, actually, to help Uncle Henrik and these people. So she's keeping on going on. I want you to look at your day 4 questions. And I'm going to do like I did yesterday. I think it's a little quicker if I read those for us, okay? So number 1 says, which of the following best describes Anne Marie? Is she alone, angry, sorry, or brave? Number 2, why don't the train dogs smell the people hidden in the boat? So we make it to the boat in today's reading. Number 3, give evidence from today's reading that supports the theme of sticking together and helping people. So go ahead and circle that one, because that is our end in mind question. Always will be, just like in class, that's always the big question that you are going to upload to me on Google Classroom. And 4, do you think Anne Marie will see Ellen again? Yes or no? I mean, that's a yes or no question. And then it says, support your prediction with evidence from the story. So it's not enough that you say, yes, she will see Ellen again, or no, she will not. What evidence from the story is going to support your guess? Because there is a right and wrong answer, and it is going to have to be supported. If you can't support your answer, just like in class, I'll say, well, if you can't support it, it's probably not right. And then look at it from the other perspective. If you said yes and you can't find support, well, think about if you said no. Can you support it in that manner? Oh, excuse me. All right, now let's pick our book back up. We are on chapter 16, and that is page 120. No, I'm sorry. We are... I'll double check myself. Yeah, we're on page 118. Sorry. I was confusing myself. And we are going to stop. I'm going to make sure. Let's stop here for sticky notes. Well, not sticky notes. It's hard for me to break that habit. All right. So here we go. 118. The Ingberg was still there by the dock, and Uncle Henrik was there, his light hair windblown and bright as he knelt by the nets. Anne Marie called to him, and he came to the side, his face worried when he recognized her on the dock. She handed him the packet across. "Mama sent your lunch," she said, her voice quivering. "But soldiers stopped me, and they took your bread." She didn't dare to tell him more. Henrik glanced quickly into the basket, and she could see the look of relief on his face, and knew that it was because he saw that the packet was there, even though it was torn open. "Thank you," he said, and the relief was evident in his voice. Anne Marie looked quickly around the familiar small boat. She could see down the passageway into the empty cabin. There was no sign of the Rawsons or the others. Uncle Henrik followed her eyes and her puzzled look. "All is well," he said softly. "Don't worry. Everything is all right." "I wasn't sure," she said, "but now..." He eyed the basket in his hand. "Because of you, Anne Marie, everything is all right. You run home now and tell your mama not to worry. I'll see you this evening." He grinned at her suddenly. "They took my bread, eh?" he said. "I hope they choke on it." Chapter 16. I will tell you just a little. "Poor Blossom," Uncle Henrik said, laughing after dinner that evening. It was bad enough that your mother was going to milk her after all these years of city life. But Anne Marie, to do it for the very first time, I'm surprised Blossom didn't kick you. Remember Blossom's the cow. And Mama laughed too. She sat in a comfortable chair that Uncle Henrik had moved from the living room and placed in a corner of the kitchen. Her leg in a clean white cast to the knee was on a footstool. Anne Marie didn't mind their laughing. It had been funny. When she had arrived back at the farmhouse, she had run along the road to avoid the soldiers who might still be in the woods. Now, carrying nothing, she was in no danger. Mama and Kirsty were gone, and there was a note hastily written from Mama that the doctor was taking her in his car to the local hospital and that they would be back soon. But the noise from Blossom, forgotten and unmilked, uncomfortable in the barn, had sent Anne Marie warily out with the milking bucket. She had done her best, trying to ignore Blossom's irritated snorts and tossing head, remembering how Uncle Henrik's hand had worked with a firm, rhythmic, pulling motion, and she had milked. "I could have done it," Kirsty announced. "You only have to pull and it squirts out. I could do it easily." Anne Marie rolled her eyes. "I'd like to see you try," she thought. "Is Ellen coming back?" Kirsty asked, forgetting the cow after a moment. "She said she'd make a dress for my doll. Anne Marie and I will help you make a dress," Mama told her. "Ellen has to go with her parents. Wasn't that a nice surprise that the Rawsons came last night to get her?" "She should have waked me up to say goodbye," Kirsty grumbled, spooning some imaginary food into the painted mouth of the doll she had propped in a chair beside her. "Anne Marie," Uncle Henrik said, getting up from the table and pushing back his chair, "if you come with me now to the barn, I'll give you a milking lesson. Wash your hands first." "Me too?" said Kirsty. "Not you too," Mama said. "Not this time. I need your help here since I can't walk very well. You'll have to be my nurse." Well, Kirsty hesitated, deciding whether to argue. Then she said, "I'm going to be a nurse when I grow up, not a cow milker. So I have to stay here and take care of Mama." Followed as usual by the kitten, Anne Marie walked with Uncle Henrik to the barn through a fine misty rain that had begun to fall. It seemed to her that Blossom shook her head happily when she saw Henrik and knew that she would be in good hands again. She sat up on the stacked hay and watched while he milked, but her mind was not on the milking. "Uncle Henrik," she asked, "where are all the Rawsons and the others? I thought you were taking them to Sweden on your boat, but they weren't there." "They were there," he told her, leaning forward against the cow's broadside. "You shouldn't know this. You remember that I told you it was safer not to know? But," he went on as his hands moved with their sure and practiced motion, "I will tell you just a little because you were so very brave." "Brave?" Anne Marie asked, surprised. "No, I wasn't. I was very frightened." "Well, you risked your life." "But I didn't even think about that. I was only thinking of," and he interrupted her, smiling, "that's all that brave means. Not thinking about the dangers, just thinking about what you must do. Of course you were frightened. I was to do too today, but you kept your mind on what you had to do, and so did I. Now let me tell you about the Rawsons. Many of them fishermen have built hidden places in their boats. I have too, down underneath. I've only to lift the boards in the right place and there is room to hide a few people. Peter and others in the resistance who work with him bring them to me, and to the other fishermen as well. There are people who hide them and help them along the way to Delege. And I'm probably saying that wrong. I'm just going to put that up front. Well, Anne Marie was startled. Peter is in the resistance? Of course, I should have known. He brings Mama and Papa the secret newspaper to Fredanske. That one too, I'm probably killing. And he always seems to be on the move. I should have figured it out myself. He is a very brave young man, Uncle Henrik said. They all are. And Anne-Marie frowned, remembering the empty boat that morning. Were the Rosens and the others there then, underneath, when I brought the basket? And Uncle Henrik nodded. Well, I heard nothing, Anne-Marie said. Take a minute and let's look at your team talks. And what can we write down as far as where, if anything I've read thus far, that we can, I always want to say a sticky note, that we can write down page numbers and paragraphs. All right, so I just made myself a note for number 1, because that one has some textual evidence. Even though I'm not asking you, or the question's not saying explain your response, it's just a real good habit to kind of get into. All right, let's pick back up on page 124. Well, of course not. They had to be absolutely quiet for many hours. The baby was drugged so that it wouldn't wake and cry. Do you remember in the reading where Peter was insistent that they give the baby some drops in the mouth? That's what Peter was doing. He was giving the baby something that would make it sleep so that it would not wake up and cry or fuss at all, so that in case the Germans were there, they wouldn't hear the baby. Well, could they hear me when I talked to you? Yes. Your friend Ellen told me later that they heard you, and they heard the soldiers who came to search the boat. Well, Anne-Marie's eyes widened. Soldiers came, she asked. I thought they went the other way after they stopped me. Well, there are many soldiers in Galicia and all along the coast. They are searching all the boats now. They know that the Jews are escaping, but they are not sure how. And they rarely find them. The hiding places are carefully concealed, and often we pile dead fish on the deck as well. They hate getting their shiny boots dirtied. He turned his head toward her and grinned. And Anne-Marie remembered the shiny boots confronting her on the dark path. Uncle Henrik, she said, I'm sure you are right that I shouldn't know everything, but please, would you tell me about the handkerchief? I knew it was important, the packet, and that's why I ran through the woods to take it to you, but I thought maybe it was a map. How could a handkerchief be important? Well, he set the filled pail aside and began to wash the cow's udder with a damp cloth. Very few know about this, Anne-Marie, he said with a serious look. But the soldiers are so angry about the escaping Jews and the fact that they can't find them that they've started using trained dogs. Well, they had dogs, the ones who stopped me on the path. And Uncle Henrik nodded. The dogs are trained to sniff about and find where people are hidden. It happened just yesterday on 2 boats. Those darn dogs, they go right through dead fish to the human scent. We were all very, very worried. We thought it meant the end of the escape to Sweden by boat. It was Peter who took the problem to scientists and doctors. Some very fine minds have worked night and day trying to find a solution, trying to find an answer. And they have created a special drug. I don't know what it is, but it was in the handkerchief. It attracts the dogs, but when they sniff at it, it ruins their sense of smell. Imagine that. Anne-Marie remembered how the dogs had lunged at the handkerchief and smelled it, and then turned away. Now, thanks to Peter, we will each have such a handkerchief, each boat captain. When the soldiers board our boats, we will simply pull the handkerchief out of our pockets. The Germans will probably think we all have bad colds. The dogs will sniff about, sniff the handkerchiefs we are holding, and then roam the boat and find nothing. They will smell nothing. Did they bring the boats to your boat? Did they bring the dogs to your boat this morning? Yes, not 20 minutes after you had gone. I was about to pull away from the dock when the soldiers appeared and ordered me to halt. They came aboard and they searched. They found nothing. But then, by then, of course, I had the handkerchief. If I had not, well, his voice trailed off. And he didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. If she had not found the packet where Mr. Rawson had dropped it, if she had not run through the woods, if the soldiers had taken the basket, if she had not reached the boat in time, all of the ifs were whirled in Anne Marie's head. They are safe in Sweden now? She asked. You're sure? And Uncle Henrik stood and patted the cow's head. I saw them ashore. There were people waiting to take them to shelter. They are quite safe there. But what if the Nazis invade Sweden? Will the Rawsons have to run away again? That won't happen. For reasons of their own, the Nazis want Sweden to remain free. It is very complicated. And Anne Marie's thoughts turned to her friends hiding under the deck of the Ingberg. It must have been awful for them. So many hours there, she murmured. Was it dark in the hiding place? Dark and cold and very cramped. And Miss Rosick was seasick, even though we were not on the water very long. It is a short distance, as you know, but they are courageous people, and none of that mattered when they stepped ashore. The air was fresh and cool in Sweden. The wind was blowing and the baby was beginning to wake as I said goodbye to them. I wonder if I will ever see Ellen again, Anne Marie said sadly. Well, you will, little one. You saved her life after all. Someday you will find her again. Someday the war will end, Uncle Henrik said. All wars do. Now then, he added, stretching, that was quite a milking lesson, was it not? Uncle Henrik, Anne Marie shrieked and then began to laugh. Look, she pointed, the god of thunder has fallen into the milk pail. All right, so what I'd like you to do is I want you to make your notations on your team talk, and that's what I'm going to do. And after you finish with those notations, you are going to answer all 4 questions in your journal, okay? That's the assignment for today. And I will, sorry, got that gnat again. I'll see you in just a few minutes so that we can carry on with day 9 at our stay-at-home work. Bye, guys.